Terence Crawford, Teofimo Lopez. Anyone in the boxing world has been seeing what's been going on social media between the two of them. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for the past few days now. Call out after call after call out. Teofimo Lopez obviously wants to fight with Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford says, I don't really want that. And I'll be honest with you guys. I made a tweet about this, and I feel like most people were in agreement with me in regards to this. But there were a lot of people that kept saying a certain take, and I'll explain that in a minute. Because what I said was, at the end of the day, this fight makes no sense for Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford should be going for undisputed. I've said that many, many times at 154. Why would he waste time fighting Teofimo Lopez? Maybe that was so decent, but I don't know. I mean, I'd take Fundora or something at 154 over the Teofimo Lopez one. And when I look at this, it's Teofimo Lopez. He hasn't had the best couple of performances recently. And what I'm looking at now is saying, okay, so if I'm Teofimo Lopez, why would I fight him? Yeah, Lopez it works out great for, but for Bud Crawford, why would he want to fight him right now? 2 weight classes up. Doesn't make any sense. And when I pointed this out, a certain fan group of a certain fighter looked at me and I could see some people saying, well, you guys are so hypocritical because you'd say you want Bud Crawford to go fight Canelo up 2 weight classes, and that's the same thing. And let me say this. First of all, I'm not a fan, to any stretch of the imagination, of wanting the Bud Crawford versus Canelo fight. What I've said specifically many times has been this. What I want is for Bud Crawford to unify and go undisputed ultimately at 154. But I understand Bud Crawford is the first ballot Hall of Fame, one of the best fighters of this generation, and he can do whatever the heck he wants at this point in his career. And if Canelo wants to do the fight, he wants to do the fight. Let them go do whatever the heck they want. They both earned it. They can do whatever they want at this point in his career because they already have the legacies established, secured, and locked in. But either way, I'm not a big fan of the fight overall. So that's a little bit wrong there. And so if you want to say that the same thing, so why are you allowing one but not the other? It's also not the same thing if we're going to be honest now. I just said I'm not a big fan of the Bud Crawford move fight either, but it's not the same thing. Teofimo Lopez is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's not locked into any legacy yet. He's a good fighter. He's accomplished a lot for his age. He's a guy that could still accomplish a lot and has a chance of making the Hall of Fame, but he's not one of the best of the generation. He's not a pound for pound top 3, 4, 5 fighter of this generation. He's none of that. Could he be? Maybe. Time's not over yet, but he's not at that status yet. There's a much bigger difference in terms of accomplishment and status between Bud Crawford and Teofimo Lopez. We're not going to debate that now, are we? And so when I look at this fight, no, it makes absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely no sense for this fight to occur. Bud Crawford has a couple things on his mind. Let him go pursue those. I prefer 154, but if he wants Canelo, let him do whatever he wants. For Teofimo Lopez, absolutely not. That makes no sense for Bud Crawford. Shouldn't even be considered. It doesn't sound like he's going to consider it either. And what Bud Crawford countered with was an interesting proposition. He offered and challenged Teofimo Lopez that if he goes and fights and beats Israel Madrimov, then he'd make the fight with him next. Bingo. All for that one. If Teofimo Lopez moves up 2 weight classes, puts on a show and beats Israel Madrimov, then let's do it. Or another hypothetical option I'd say is if Teofimo Lopez really wants to be at 154 and get the Bud fight, go get a belt at 154. Go get one of those belts. Go put on a display, show whoever's going to be you want to fight. And at that point in time, then go challenge Bud Crawford. Makes a lot more sense because then you have something that actually would benefit Bud Crawford opposed to something that doesn't mean anything to Bud. It means absolutely nothing. At least for Canelo, on his resume, you see Bud Crawford. I mean, that's a cool name. We all know the backstory behind it. That's a cool name to have on your resume. But Teofimo Lopez isn't that crazy of a statement to have on your name yet.